All right, Miss Walker, I would like to thank you for taking your time out to do this interview with me.
You're very
Just
welcome.
to remind you that the interview is voluntary, so at any time you feel like you need to stop, just let me know. We can end the interview. There's no penalty for that. And if you need me to clarify anything, just let me know.
All right.
All right, so to begin, why did you attend the HBCU?
Well, I attended an HBCU because I felt that it would be a great experience to connect with other people my age and my race, to get better immersed in the culture because I'm from the north, so they don't really have a lot of. It's not really immersed in culture up there. It's just kind of we're all mixed up, so you don't really have a feel for your own culture. So I think Jackson State is a good place to do that. Any HBCU, mind you, is a good place to do that.
And why did you consider going to a predominantly white institution?
I did. I did entertain going to a private institution, McKendree up in Illinois, but that was a little more. The cost was a little steeper than I'd anticipated, so I ended up looking at other schools, and Jackson State stood out for me. So here I am.
All right, so what culture experience did you happen to want from attending a HBCU?
Cultural experience. Well, I didn't really have one in mind at the time. I just know that I went to predominantly white schools uh, all through my years of school back at home because I'm from the north, and I just thought it would be interesting to be around other people of my culture. I didn't really have a specific experience going into this, but I've certainly experienced a few.
All right. And can you tell me some of what have been your positive experiences here so far?
Positive experiences, okay. Uh, Positive. Well, I met a lot of different people from all over, all different African American people from different, I keep saying different, from various states around the country, which it's nice to hear about their experiences being, the same race in different environments all over the place, and they tell me how different it is where they're from, and we talk about that. Plus, you get to experience when we all get together and it's a mixed environment. Everybody does things differently, and I think we kind of discussed that because we're weird like that. But let me see any other positive experiences. They have a different outtake like during classes and stuff when we start discussing things, and everybody has a different opinion because of where they're from and how they were raised and what their culture is and all that. And I think that's interesting.
Do you think that plays on it being? Do you think the experiences that the positive experiences that you're getting from here, and with everyone having a different opinion, or as you said, like in class, in a discussion, people from based on where they're from, they're presenting a different outlook on things. Do you think that that is specifically a part of the HBCU experience, or could you get that in any institution?
Well, I think that you could probably get a variation of that at an institution because a whole bunch of people come from different places to that one specific spot. But I think it's different in the HBCU because you have a larger representation of our specific African American race. And since we have such a diverse culture from anybody else in any other culture, basically, I think you get a much. It's interesting to see the variations of that culture because we're all part of the same culture, but we all experience and utilize it differently, if that makes sense. So getting to see the other aspects of our culture that I haven't, experienced before. It's still the same thing, but they do things a little differently. I think that's more interesting to find out how they changed it and how you're basically doing the same thing, but just in separate methods, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. All right. And is there any experience in particular that you remember that you've had here that's been really positive that you wouldn't mind sharing?
Okay, let me think. A personal experience.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, freshman year, Are we talking about like interaction between like one person, a group of people, just the campus as a whole?
It could be the campus as a whole, with the person, for people, just anything at an HBCU that you experienced and it was a positive experience for you, something that you can remember and that you might not ever forget.
Well, I don't know. The first thing that pops into my mind is when they had a movie night, a Disney movie night in my freshman dorm, and we got a whole bunch of people from different floors coming up and different dorms. They ended up coming over, and we all sat and we watched these movies together. We commented and we sang along with the songs, and I thought that was cool. I don't know if that's mostly an HBCU specific memory, but I'd never seen so many African American girls enjoying this type of entertainment before, and I thought that was cool.
All right. And what are some of the positives with attending an HBCU?
Okay. Well, besides immersing yourself in the culture, like I, kind of said earlier, uh, as a race, we all get to, I don't want to say bump each other up, encourage each other to uh, get towards our, what's the word I'm trying to say, to reach the finish line. We're all trying to
Mhm.
help each other graduate. We're all trying to help each other move up in the rank. And so now that we're all here getting educated together as a whole, I think that's uh, a real inspiring thing for us to do, considering what we've been through. Our ancestors and stuff weren't educated at all, so I think it's a show of how far we've come as a people that we're all here together, learning the skills that we need to make it in the world.
Okay, and how has that went along or affected your experience?
My experience. Well, it is interesting to have other people in my major, not even my major, just well, personally, mostly people in my major that I see in most of my classes, and we help each other make it through all these classes together, striving to get the best grades that we can. Uh, and as a whole, my personal experience, even outside of my major classes, we still have people who will other people in other majors will help us out with a project or something, or if we have some problems trying to finish out some homework. Other people from different like science majors or something to help us if we need any help. So I think that camaraderie has helped me get as far as I've gotten today.
All right. And what do you think? Well, first I want to ask you: do you think that you would have had that same camaraderie and that help if you went to a predominantly white institution rather than attending a smaller HBCU?
I feel like it would have been a positive experience in its own way. Different because they're not from the same culture as I am. We would
Mm-hmm.
not have probably clicked as well. I would have had friends there because friendly people, you can meet people anywhere, but we wouldn't have gotten as close as some of the friends that I've made here. Some of
Mm-hmm.
the intellectual connections I've made here. Um, yeah.
All right. And what do you feel are some of the challenges of attending a HBCU?
Some of the challenges. Well, um, okay. Well, a lot of it. Well, I don't know. That's not an HBCU specific thing. I was gonna say something about party schools, but that's there are a lot of different schools that are just party schools. So, an HBCU challenge would be a lot of other schools now recognizing that we are actually moving up in our rank. I guess you could say that we're not equipped or able to fulfill some type of criteria that they expect most colleges to adhere to. So,
Well, do you? Do you think HBCUs are equipped?
Uh, Funding wise, I think it could be better. We could have better. We could be better equipped. I'll say that. But as far as students who are capable, we're there are enough of us here that are extremely capable. Yeah.
Hmm. And like you said that other institutions, they don't really look at us as being um, what's the word that you use? Basically able to, you know,
Do stuff
yeah.
right.
So why do you think they look at us like that? Well, they look at HBCUs like that.
Well, it's the whole ingrained, racism thing that people think has disappeared over,
Mm-hmm.
ever since slavery ended or whatever. But it's still there, and a lot of us have witnessed it. And I don't think that, not to say all of the races though, but there are specific people who see the HBCUs as something lesser, or you're not getting a quality education or something there, just because of the school's background, or where it's placed, or the other students that are there. So I think it's not a it's not an accurate outlook on HBCUs, but it is one, and that's people are really set. Some people are set in their ways that way.
Mm-hmm. And do you think there are any other challenges at HBCUs?
Well, okay. Well, sticking to just challenges inside the college. Uh,
Even something that you might have experienced it yourself.
oh, okay. Well, I don't want you to quote me on this.
You were free to say
Hey, all
whatever
right,
it is
okay.
that you
You should
want.
have told me that. All right. Well, I don't want to throw the word incompetent out there, but there have certainly been some instances where I have questioned some of the authority. Not because they don't know. Okay, that's why. Not because they aren't getting the job done. It's the
Mm-hmm.
method in which they go about getting the job done. It's just it seems like it's a lot more trouble than it's worth when they could pick some simpler solutions, like the housing situation. For instance, we have a lot of, I don't know if that's a Jackson State specific thing, or is that's an HBCU thing as a whole, having to go through all of these challenges just trying to get into the school, or just trying to find a place to stay, or trying to get classes together. The structural entrance process, I guess is what you call it, is just it's fractured. It's not really stable. You got too many different people doing too many different things, and they're not all communicating. And so just a whole bunch of things go wrong in the middle. They end up, most of the time they end up smoothing it out. But I feel like it shouldn't be that difficult to start with. You shouldn't have to fix it if you have a smooth set out plan for the whole thing. That makes sense.
Well, why do you think that it's that difficult in the first place, and people handling too many things? Like you said, why do you think it's difficult in the first place?
Ooh, okay. Well, I don't want to say this, but you told me. Go ahead. All right. So, uh, like I said, that was a problem with authority, and I think that the problem mostly lies with those in higher positions of authority who are not asserting the right amount of leadership in the right areas, and they just tell people do your job, but if no one knows what that job is, they can't do it. So if
Mm-hmm.
you just give people the power, not any instructions on what needs to be done, how it needs to be done, or just make it a means to an end. You can't just tell people to go do something and they're just confused, and that just, so people being in charge who are confused about what they need to do just makes the people who need to follow them even more confused because they definitely don't know what's going on. So I think that just the leadership needs to be a little more specific about what it's asking its workers to do.
Right.
Yeah.
And do you think that's just a HBCU thing, or is that just universities themselves?
The bad thing is I've only this probably just me. It could be a lie, but personally, I've only heard about any issues like this uh, through HBCUs, and only a few of them. I'm not sure if that's for all of them, but the only ones I know of are HBCUs.
So why do you think, if it is correct from what you heard, and maybe PWIs don't necessarily have that issue, why do you think they're not experiencing these same issues?
The problem is I have absolutely no idea. I don't because we're there should be no problem. I see no reason why it should not be uh, as simple as it as we make it out to be, as
Mm-hmm.
the process should be. I don't really have an idea as to why it's such a struggle. I'm not sure.
Alright. Well, do you think that the lack of media coverage on the HBCU experience has influenced people's perceptions of the institutions?
Huh. Well, that's highly possible. If they don't know what's actually going on, they'll just make their own uh, assumptions, like you said. Uh, yes, I do think that.
And why do you believe that?
Because allowing someone to see something and just telling them about it are two different things. Uh, Showing what an HBCU is actually about and what it does and what it accomplishes would better will help others better understand the good that it does and how it prepares everyone, because we don't just have black students here. We have a little bit of everybody. How it just prepares its students, uh, or how it prepares its students just as well as a PWI would. It's just been, its history is a little different. It was founded uh, around the African American community, and that should not hinder it any. Yep.
What do you mainly see in the news concerning HBCUs?
Mainly in the news. Um, well, mostly I see a few coverages of I don't know, important events that take place there, like some of the convocations and things like that. But mostly sports.
Sports.
Mostly sports.
So you don't happen to ever really see any negative coverage or feedback about HBCUs in the media?
Oh yeah, there have been some. There's a whole bunch of I want to say, well, it is just a whole bunch of race issues
Mm-hmm.
surrounding HBCUs, and that's mostly what I've seen. Never anything that doesn't involve the race of the institution.
All right. Now I know you say you mainly see like events being covered in sports. Other than that, do you what it's sometimes the race issue, but other than that, what are some of the main topics that maybe ever on TV you've ever seen covered with HBCUs? What are the main focuses that they like to focus on when having, whether it's CNN or a local station, that they ever choose to cover, or even maybe the in legislation they ever decide to focus on when it comes to HBCUs?
I think they mostly focus on the things that are going wrong in the school, which I think that it's good to have to allow people to see what's going wrong so that it can kind of pressure them into fixing it. But you should also show how, I mean, the good that's there. You have to have the bad and the good to balance it out, because it's not all bad.
All right. And if you think about even fictional media when it comes to HBCUs, have you ever seen any TV shows, movies about HBCUs?
Mm,
Do you know of any? Like maybe
No, I don't think so. Not that I can think of.
All right. Well, to give you an example, so maybe like a different world, School Days,
Oh,
Cosby
Lord.
Show. You could use that as an
Yes.
example.
Oh, that's horrible. Cause not. Okay. Uh-huh.
It's okay. What do you think? What images are they putting out there of the universities?
Well, let's see. A different world. It puts it out as a prestigious, diverse environment for students to learn and grow in because they have a whole bunch of organizations for all of them to join. They focus on the intellectual aspect, on the social aspects, and I think that was a nice representation of what an HBC was about. Uh,
Well, do you think a different world properly showed the HBCU experience and what it's like at HBCU?
we'll see. I think it's a little different now because that was what? How many years ago? It's been a minute.
Like 15 years.
It's been a minute. I think it's changed a bit, but I think it has accurately represented both sides, the intellectual and the social aspects of the universities as a whole.
We can pause and for your phone call. Hold on. All right, to resume. Have you ever heard of something called the Cosby effect?
No.
Okay, well, in one of my research articles that I've read from two professors at Howard, they were basically saying that the Cosby effect, when Bill Cosby came out with the Cosby Show, then to spin off A Different World, it basically opened doors for people to, well, those shows themselves basically promoted and expressed positive images for HBCUs, driving students to want to go to college, and and those shows also opened doors for one movie almost like School Days, Drumline, and different movies to come out about the quote unquote HBCU experience, and even still now open up the doors for other shows, and basically when there was an outlet for HBCUs in the media and for people to hear about HBCUs, that door was open through them. What do you think there make of that?
I think that's pretty accurate because the Cosby Show was a very uh, renowned show when it was on the air, and I think, well, probably not mostly Bill Cosby's name, but because people knew the quality of his work, they decided they wanted to watch A Different World, and A Different World did live up to all the expectations that they had. So that people wanted to follow in Cosby's footsteps and portray the black experience like that is pretty accurate and very positive. I like it.
But do you think that at that time they convinced those shows, maybe other shows like that, convinced students to attend these HBCUs?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I think it showed some of the struggles that they would face, but it also showed them that you could still overcome that. And so I think it gave everybody, it inspired everybody to actually go out there and at least try and see if you could make it like Whitley or like, what's his name? Is it Dwayne or Dwight? Dwayne. I keep calling him Dwight, but you know who I'm talking about. And see, and follow their storylines and see, oh, well, I want to do that. Well, you can go out and you can do it.
All right, so do you feel that these shows were actually needed at that time?
Oh, needed, yes.
Why?
Because, like you said, it inspired them, encouraged them to go to college. And before that, it it wasn't a huge following. They didn't. There weren't a large representation of African Americans in colleges at the time. So I think the fact that we now have multiple HBCUs that have a plethora of students uh, that are actually here and they're actually graduating. I think we owe that fact to Bill Cosby and the fact that he opened the media to what was going on at HBCUs.
All right, so how do I want to answer this? My question just slipped. Sorry. So do you if you move to now to today to the 21st century, do you think that HBCUs need something like that out right now, out in the world now? Do you think shows like that, or even that's portraying the the HBCU experience, do you think that's needed now out there in today's society?
I think so because even after A Different World just inspired that great boom of students to go to college,
Mm-hmm.
now it's started to wane a bit. And we have a lot of students, but probably not as many. There are still a lot of us who are not pursuing second education. Some of us that haven't even finished high school. So I do think that uh, there should be more shows out there encouraging students to focus on, getting their education and coming out here and bettering themselves
Mm-hmm.
mentally and intellectually. I think we do have too many shows out there about, just deciding you want to become someone famous as wife so that you can have your own TV show and fight people. But I'm sorry, my personal feelings. Anyway, I do think that we need more inspirational shows like A Different World to tell people that no matter what their background, they can still come out and they can make it through college
Mm-hmm.
unscathed. You can make it.
So did any of these, when growing up or even right before you went to college, did any of these shows, or even which you might have heard or seen in the news or maybe heard a little about, discourage you or encourage you to want to attend HBCU?
I can't say that it consciously or directly influenced my decision,
Mm-hmm.
but I know my mom used to watch A Different World a lot when I was younger, and I used to watch it with her. So I'm not sure if that made that left an unconscious impression on me, or if I just you know decided I wanted to go to one later on in life. I did end up applying uh, in the hopes that I would get it. I knew Jackson State was an HBCU, but I didn't know if I was going to. It was just uh, one of my choices,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't really get the grasp how important it was to attend an HBCU until I got down here.
Did your parents happen to go to one?
My dad did. He went to. Is Texas Southern an HBCU?
Yes,
Yeah,
that's
okay.
it.
Texas Southern is an HBCU. My dad went down there. My
Mm-hmm.
mom went to Northwestern in Illinois. I don't think that's not an HBCU.
Oh, okay. That's good. Well, do you think desegregation has had a negative influence on the culture and growth of HBCUs?
Uh, well, okay. You say a negative effect on it?
Mm, like just
I'm
letting
not
other
entirely sure.
ethnicities and races.
Well, no, because there's nowhere in this country where it's just completely black people. You will always
Mm,
have other races. Just like it's not always there's nowhere that it's just completely white people. You'll always have a mix of other cultures and other races, other groups of people that you need to learn how to get along with, coexist, tolerate in some cases. Uh, you have to. Well, I think it's good that the HBCUs have an environment where they've allowed other races to come in here and represent themselves because it helps HBCU students learn how to deal with that, going through their day and doing their job, which is being a student, um, doing their job and still interacting and making friends and working along with other ethnicities.
alright. And has attending an HBCU in any way cultivated or increased your pride and self esteem?
Has it increased my self esteem?
Yep,
Yes,
or
it
even your
has.
pride?
Oh, my pride. Okay. Well, yes, I have. Uh, I guess I've reaffirmed my pride as an African American woman.
What do you mean by that?
Uh, being here has allowed me to learn more about um, where my people came from,
Mm-hmm.
what they've gone through, and I realized. just how much they had to sacrifice for me to be in the position that I'm in today. And it's just made me more aware and more grateful for my circumstance and what people had to sacrifice for me to have that circumstance.
Don't you think you could have got that even if you didn't attend a black college?
No, I don't think so. They wouldn't have put as much of an emphasis on it. It would have been present, but not as thoroughly or vividly as it is down here.
So, in any of your classes, even classes that might not be about the black culture and black history, any classes that you take, just like, let's say, Education 101 or English 101 or something like that, do you think they, somehow the professors are putting a spin more so on the black?
Yes, all of them are. Mostly, I think it's. I don't want to say it's. Well, no, mostly it's because of the state that we're in. We're in Mississippi, which is like the heart of the South, basically. And I think that most of the emphasis will be put on black culture down here because we have so many uh, famous African American writers who came down here, who I'm not sure. A lot has happened and changed for the black community, and I don't want to say it started. It's gone through Mississippi. Mississippi's been the hub for a lot of that stuff and fighting back against, slavery and all those types of things. Yeah.
All right. So, to tie it all together, do you believe historically black colleges and universities are still relevant today?
Are they still relevant? Yes, they are.
Why?
The sense of community is good, but you can find black communities all over. You need an intellectual black community, one that will stimulate both your social desires and your intellectual and educational needs as well.
Well, then I'm about to play devil's advocate real quick. I know African Americans in the past you couldn't get into PWI, but now since you're able to get into PWI, why should we still have HBCUs if that was the purpose for them? Because at that time, African American students didn't have a place to get education. Why should we still have them? They can go anywhere now.
That is true. You are able to go to non-HBCUs, but I think having HBCUs available for those who want to go, uh, that was the whole purpose of them being created. So you can't just because they're allowed to go to PWIs, you can't just close it down. HBCUs are culturally rich communities that should be uh, upheld, and I was going somewhere else with that, and I don't remember where else I was going with it. These types of environments should be kept up because they offer more culturally rich opportunities than any PWIs do. Not to say that they don't, have, cultural fests and they don't, celebrate their diversity. But here there's a greater emphasis on the black culture. And I think most African American students should know more about their own culture before they decide they want to go, and either learn or experience another culture.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for your interview. Is there anything else you would like to add?
No, not
All
this
right.
time.
Any questions you have for me?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you.